If you believe the headlines, then UK doctors are overpaid juvenile delinquents throwing a tantrum while the NHS collapses. Well, these headlines are simply not true. Ask yourself this: why would tens of thousands of highly trained professionals risk public hatred, loss of income, government hostility, unless something was seriously wrong? So let that sink in for a minute while I bring Evey into the video, my wife who is an ophthalmology doctor. So Evey, tell me about how many years experience you have working as a doctor, how many years you had to study, as well as ongoing exams that you have to do to be a doctor, which, by the way, you have to pay for yourself, right?
Exactly.
They're a condition of employment, but your employer doesn't pay for it. You have to pay for it yourself.
So I graduated as a doctor in 2017. Before that, I was 5 years of medical school plus 1 year of an intercalated BSc.
For 6 years,
6 years in total. And then after that, 2 years of foundation training, where we kind of get a broad overview of quite a number of specialties.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, specialty training. So I've done my specialty training bit now for about 3 years.
So 6 years university and 5 years working as a doctor.
Yes.
2 as a F1, F2,
Yep.
and 3 as specialty.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've also taken 2 years out for maternity leave.
Yes.
Now tell me about the exams you've had to sit and you continue to have to sit. How many you've done, how many you've got left during your rotations?
Okay. So before starting ophthalmology, I didn't know I wanted to do ophthalmology. So I did the generic exam first. So that was one exam that was like £500, the MRCP Part 1. Mm-hmm. And then I knew I wanted to do ophthalmology. So then I've done 3 ophthalmology exams now. The first one I did before getting in, because I knew that would help me get in.
How much did that one cost?
Ooh.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Another 500?
Hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And the most recent one I did was £700.
So it's near enough, between £1.5, £2 on exams so far.
Oh, easily.
And how many more have you got left to do?
1 more.
Okay, so 1 more. So you probably have spent near enough £2,500, £3,000 on exams.
Plus we have to pay like £400, £500 to the GMC every year, plus our Royal College fees.
Okay, so now let's look at what the headlines don't. Let's look at the reality of the doctor strike situation. The media's narrative is neat and convenient. Doctors are being paid fairly, they should be grateful, and striking, it's selfish. But that narrative only works if you never look at the numbers, the conditions, and you never ask why so many doctors are leaving the NHS altogether. It's a perfect example of the media telling people what they want them to believe. So firstly, let's talk about pay, because at the end of the day, doctors go to work to earn money, just like anybody else. Here's the key point: doctors' pay has fallen, even with the deal made during the last strikes. And this isn't because doctors are now less useful.
It's fallen because it's quietly failed to keep up with inflation since 2008. And
in real terms, doctors' pay is still 25% lower than it was in 2008. So before the first round of strikes, a newly qualified doctor, which is an F1, how much did they earn?
So previously on £14 per hour, but since the strikes, that has increased now to £18.62 per hour.
And that increase didn't come from government generosity, it came from doctors withdrawing their labour. Now let's put that into context. An F1 doctor then has completed between 5 and 6 years of schooling, education, medical school, passed national exams, and very importantly, carries legal responsibility for patients' lives from day one, unlike a lot of other professions.
Yeah, it's true. And for comparison, so a physician assistant who does not have a medical degree, are not forced to do on-calls the way we are, they start on £24 an hour. So there's a huge discrepancy there, and I think that's really what's made doctors so angry.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Now, moving on from pay, let's discuss debt, because doctors start working with some serious debt. And that's not lifestyle debt, that's training debt.
And it's honestly not uncommon for doctors to graduate with debts of £60,000 to £100,000, with their interest taking up faster than repayments.
The truth of the matter is, doctors now are not able to afford the same sort of things that doctors in previous generations could.
Yeah, so whereas a resident doctor's salary could have previously bought them a home in London.
Yeah, it's now more likely to be able to afford them house sharing, flat sharing, spiralling debt, and a landlord's pension. Relatively new anxieties for millennials as a whole, really, across the board, are things like, can I even afford to have kids? Childcare these days is crazy. Can I ever own a home? Will I ever be able to retire? These weren't defining anxieties for doctors in the past, but now they are. And then that's how the job actually works. So as someone married to a doctor, I know how disruptive it can be to family life, but tell us about the working conditions.
I think the main issue is that doctors rotate constantly. As a foundation doctor, we're changing specialties every 4 months and then changing hospitals after a year. And then after that, in specialty training, obviously this differs from specialty to specialty, but in mine, we change hospitals every 6 months, which is a big deal because it's a new system, it's a new hospital, new IT logins, different people that you have to manage.
Yeah, there's obviously all the challenges that you have at work, but obviously seriously, from a husband's point of view, and we've got 2 young kids, we basically had to buy our house based on it being in the middle of all of Evey's hospitals. Even though it's in an area that we don't really want to live, there's not really any shops near us. Would be, it's not ideal, but we had to choose it for her work. And even though we are in the middle of all her hospitals, she currently commutes an hour. One of her hospitals is it like an hour and a half? Almost 2 hours?
Yeah, there's one that's 1.5 hours away. There's one that's 2.5 hours away, I think.
Is it
so
that
you
long?
actually have to stay at the hospital, which is just not feasible if
No.
you have a young family.
No, it's not. No.
Nobody thinks about the logistics or how difficult it is to be at one hospital on the Tuesday and then be at a different hospital on a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.
When you have your rotation.
Yeah, when we change over. It's honestly ridiculous. And
It is ridiculous. Everyone just expects the doctors to be in the hospitals, to be super efficient, for the waiting times to be like 10 minutes. But yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in terms of your lifestyle and changing hospitals.
all the stuff we have to put up with.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then training opportunities. That's also an issue.
Massively. I think training opportunities have been quietly taken away from us. There are lots of other non-doctor roles in the NHS, like physician assistants and advanced clinical practitioners. And they are starting, because they're more permanent, they carry out more of the roles on the wards, like things even like a lumbar puncture, and things like doing a colonoscopy or reporting an MRI. These are increasingly done by non-doctor roles.
Why? That sounds like the job of a doctor.
Well, you would think so, but somehow they're being kind of redistributed.
And this is an issue for doctors because you need these training experiences to
gain that enough
gain the
experience
experience.
to be a knowledgeable and rounded consultant, well-rounded.
So why is this
consultant.
happening? Is this happening to reduce the load on doctors so that they can be more efficient? Or is it happening to reduce the need of doctors so that we don't rely on doctors as much in the future? Why is that happening?
There are definitely fewer doctor roles now, and also because the government are not prioritizing UK medical graduates, there's an increasing competition ratio, especially for higher specialty training, which is a huge issue amongst doctors at the moment. And after completing their foundation years, a lot of people are actually becoming unemployed, unable to find a job for next year, and they're just essentially in limbo.
So what we're trying to say here is this isn't about protecting status, it's about protecting standards, right? You don't get senior doctors by accident, you get them by training juniors properly, which doesn't really seem to be happening at the minute. So the real question shouldn't be why are doctors striking? It should be why isn't the government managing pay and working conditions for doctors properly? If pay had kept pace with inflation and working conditions were in place to protect UK doctors, this wouldn't be happening and my wife wouldn't be striking, right?
There would be no strikes.
Thanks for watching, and whether you have any questions, whether you agree with us or whether you think we're talking nonsense, let us know in the comments. Evey will get back to you.